may I invite both Tamara and Jasper to come up now onto the stage. And once you're here, I shall invite Tamara to start, yes? So if you want to just come and join us wherever is comfortable. Do you want to just sit at the table, or do you want to go to the very fancy lectern that we have? It's up to you. Okay. And so I've already introduced you, Tamara, once, so I won't do it twice. And please, you have your 15 minutes of fame.
Okay. Well, it's 15 minutes now, and a year already of, I would say, fame for everyone involved in this huge task. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, let me start by saying that I'm extremely proud for being part of a small part of the team behind the ICH and museum project. Although as external expert in the last year, I have collaborated with all the partners, and I wish to thank them for the opportunity to work with them and for making me feel comfortable and included throughout the process. This was a collaborative process from the very beginning. So this book, this morning I met some people and they said, oh, your book is out, it's our book, because it practically reflects the work done by the whole team behind the project, but also many contributors that are present in the book. So this was, as I say, a collaborative process that made me grow on a personal and professional level, and I sincerely thank you for this opportunity. At the very beginning, my task seemed quite easy, at least for me. But the process of producing a book that would inspire museum professionals to work with ICH, that would balance between being a collection of academic insights and practical tips, and that would collect and organize in a clear and exciting conceptual frame the practices and emotions gathered in previous 3 years, was not, of course, at all an easy task. So, addressing the contemporary challenges in the heritage field influenced by the social, political, and environmental fast changes, the book was finally organized around the concept of intersections, meaning that diverse activities conducted by museum professionals and communities, groups, and individuals at some point intersect, forming patterns that offer a new space, as we call it, a third space, enabling new and enriched insights into heritage. This third space, as inspired by Baba's insights, doesn't rely on hybridity per se, nor it is important in trying to detect the source of the perspective. It is important because it enables other positions to emerge. So, and it is exactly the other positions that we try to identify and present in this book. Looking for practices that that would inspire, but also contribute to preservation and safeguarding on a practical level. Working for 12 years now in the Ethnographic Museum of Istria and 5 years program manager of Eco Museum Batana, good safeguarding practices, as Janet said already, but where I figure also as a community member, I have witnessed these two practices working side by side, but not as one. This publication, with all the reflections coming from many contributors, is evidence that there is a practice or practices which is and are professional and empathic at the same time, and that can accommodate sometimes even opposite needs and positions. The book starts with acknowledging their shared challenges and needs. For the purpose of identifying shared concerns, we draw on the recommendations by the ICOM Standing Committee for Museum Definition, Prospect and the Potentials, because we thought it reflects the present needs, or as said, concerns of the museum sector, and from the 2003 Convention to address the complex nature of ICH. To start exploring these key concepts, We have first set the stage thanks to Professor Noel Salazar's contribution on the heritage discourse, and from there we moved on to explore participation as a key concept already discussed a minute ago. So we did that in 2 interviews, one with Professor Janet Blake, which I thank very much for the interview. It was not an easy task to coordinate everything. No, it was great. So, and the other one with Professor Filomena Sosa. Further, Mark Jacobs expands on the role of communities, groups, and individuals, but also on the intangible heritage communities, emphasizing on heritage communities, giving us good thought, food for thought about our own position as well. The concept of communities, groups, and individuals is followed by Afshin Altali's text on the social role of museums, which is a central entry point for ICH in museums, as I see it. Nevertheless, instruments, objects, artifacts, and cultural spaces are also shared concern. So in his second text, Mark Jacobs emphasizes on the concept of intangible values of tangible heritage, inviting us to look deeper, higher, and wider, and to do so critically. Another key concept presented in the book is diversity, explored by Albert van Zeyden and Sophie Elpers. And finally, sustainable development, a question which somehow is present, is omnipresent, and it is explored in a text by Valentina Lapicirella Zingari. The second section of the book brings us the methodology that we set for this book, and which is based on the idea of intersections. So it includes a text on the weak ties by Francesca Cominelli and an interview with Leontine Meyer van Mensch, focusing on the idea of liquid museum, which form a good intro to this intersection methodology. The intersections will be explored much in more in details in the afternoon, but just to give you an insight of how we thought about it, we discussed the intersection within the frame of the ICOM Code of Ethics and the UNESCO 2003 Convention's operational directives, trying to see how museum functions and safeguarding measures intersect, and how these practices that we have seen throughout the IMP project can really, or if they reflect this methodology. So the third, final section addresses potential risks, because we know that in this collaboration between intangible cultural heritage practices and museum practices, there are a lot of risks if we don't really think through. Some of these are loss of meaning and decontextualization, commercialization, the misunderstanding around the concept of the intangible dimension of tangible heritage, and the concept of authenticity. The book offers also a reference framework, which is very practical, with key texts and resources, helpful when we need some quick information, but also to help navigating through the broad heritage field. So, for the end, because I want to leave something also for the afternoon, I hope you will enjoy reading this book as much as I did in working on it, and that it will eventually become a companion to your everyday work. So we will talk more about the intersections this afternoon, the ones that are in the IMP book group. But let me use 1 more minute to thank everyone involved, not only Yoreen, Evelyn, and Kia, as the nucleus of the project and of the book, but also the think tank, everyone from the think tank that helped a lot with their contributions, and all the other authors of the text present in the book, which are Noel Salazar, Janet Blake, Filomena Sosa, Mark Jacobs, Afshin Altali, Albert van der Zeyden, Sophie Elpers, Valentina Lepicirella Zingari, Francesca Cominelli, Meg Nomgaard, and last but not least, Leontine Meyer van Mensch. Thank you all very much also for being here today. Hopefully in the afternoon we will manage to exchange some good practices and try to enrich this book, which I see as a start in this never-ending quest. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Tamara. And so now all of those of you who chose the other workshop might now be feeling that you can wish to be in hers. But now it's up to Jasper to disabuse you of that. And I didn't actually introduce Jasper completely earlier on, so I shall do so now. He is an international consultant and facilitator in digital transformation and community leadership. Will that do?
That will do.
Okay.
That will do. Cool, thank you. So I'm not going to stay here. That has nothing to do with the States, but with my personality and the things I do for a living. I shouldn't move in front of that because then your ears die. So I'm going to shut up until I'm there. All right. So, yeah, I keep an eye on my time. All right. So Kia already started a little bit with a reflection I very much appreciated and a reflection I want to give. And it is my experience as somebody who facilitates groups, who is an advocate for participation in culture, and I've been working on that for, I think, the last decade and a half, about some experiences I had engaging with you, the intangible cultural heritage community, and especially in the area of participation, participating in workshops with each other, but also with heritage. And as I've done most of the workshops throughout this project, I thought, let's take these 15 minutes also and make it a little bit workshopy. So, I'd like to invite you, and this is not going to be scary, we're not going to go dancing, no. It's very secure, although if you really want to, you can. I want to get your phone out, open YouTube or TikTok, or any other app that you have there that has video on it. And you don't have to start playing anything yet, but I want you to look for something you're not terribly ashamed of. So if I open my YouTube, it's full of videos that if I show them to you, you get a very bad idea of who I am when I'm very tired and on a train. So I'd go for probably something that my son watches, which is a Minecraft video. Anyway, just look for something on there that says something about you that you're not ashamed of. And if you don't do YouTube or TikTok, first plug to the toolkit, there's of course the wonderful ICHsandmuseums.eu website, which has many fantastic videos, and you've seen 2 of them, but there's so much more content on there that you can also use to show about something about who you are. So, okay, we'll get back to that at the end, so you can browse through that and you don't really have to listen to me. That's a good thing. Good. Participation and intangible cultural heritage. So what I discovered is participation by nature is a risky and messy process. The moment I ask you something, for instance, what is your favorite color?
I don't know.
You don't know. What is your favorite color?
Red.
Red. I don't know the answer. And in that interaction, something beautiful starts happening. You don't know the answer either. So it's even green. There we go. I love people who love green. It's very important. Sustainable development. It's in the book. It's a messy process. It's a tricky process. And when we started this project, I noticed that a lot of heritage professionals, intangible cultural heritage professionals, they don't like messy. They like structure. They like things to go the way they can predict them. They like to, things to be clear, cut out. I'm not saying this is true for you, but it's an observation I had. So when we went dancing, that was scary. When we did we do singing? I don't think so, right? No, we didn't even try that. We can do singing later on. It was a bit scary because it's out of the ordinary, out of what we're used to doing. But what I've also understood going through these conferences, and especially in Mechelen, is that in this insecurity, the role actually of intangible cultural heritage for me in participation is that it provides
See, I'm just showing you my goodwill here, Jasper.
Thank you. So, intangible cultural heritage gives this security. You know, these traditions, they provide us with a little bit of a framework. They're a tool for understanding this messy world around us in which everybody participates, and they're actually maybe a good starting point to do that. So, and I think you already mentioned ALST, Black Pete has been mentioned, all these very difficult topics that we're dealing with that are related to people participating in intangible cultural heritage, that to us as practitioners are maybe scary or dangerous or difficult, but we can use the tools and we can use the book that you created and we can use these methods that we've developed to actually learn how to deal with them. So, as somebody who likes insecurity and who likes chaos and who likes messiness, I found that while I was maybe hired in this project to provide a little bit of participation, in fact, I felt more like a student, somebody in school, taking that much more valuable tool of intangible cultural heritage into my pocket as something that I can use in my workshop when I get people to participate and to go together. So, intangible cultural heritage, for me, provides me with a sort of like basic outline to start doing things with other people. And if you look around at these big topics that we deal with, such as climate change, I'm wearing my climate change sweater today. This is where the water level will be in a bit if we don't worry. If I jump, we all drown. But also human rights, the topic that Janet spoke about. All these big topics that are messy, that are insecure, that put our societies at risks. There's actually so much to learn from intangible cultural heritage. Our resistance as practitioners in this field to stand up and dance may very well be the same resistance that the communities, groups, and individuals that we work with, that the museum visitor has to participating in intangible cultural heritage. So the fact that you dared in Bern to get up and dance, and I remember you had an especially beautiful role in that, but there were more star dancers in the group. That we dare to do that we dare to step up as practitioners in this field shows that we can also stand up in these messier topics that surround us today. Now, the toolkit, the thing that I'm here presenting, may actually give you some guidance in this process. The way it's structured is that after you've read the book, the beautiful book, or in another way, you've become empowered and you start believing in the power intangible cultural heritage has to shape the world around us and to work with the world around us. The toolkit is structured in a way that it helps you answer the how question. How do I convince my colleagues? How do I choose the right communities to work with? What can I ask of a community? And how do I do that in a meaningful and useful way? How can I go and measure the impact? But also, how can I create an exhibition based on an intangible cultural heritage topic? All these big questions that you've been asking throughout this project, we've tried to answer them in the toolkit. I'll show you later how that works. But, and this is something I think that's the most important thing, intangible cultural heritage, as you rightfully mentioned, traditions are living, they're dynamic, they're always changing. You don't learn to work with them. You don't learn to reflect on them by reading a book, no matter how great, or by reading a toolkit, no matter how smart. You learn them by doing. You learn them by going out into communities, working with their intangible cultural heritage, trying to understand it, trying to make it part of your museum practice. So I hope you all found a video. Yes? If you didn't, if almost 50% of the group found the video, that's what I'm aiming for. Yeah, I see some nodding. I see 50% nodding. That's good. Good. There's even somebody who started playing it. Oh wow, you found yours. This is
All'interno del museo
something. Okay, good. That's a video. It was just to highlight what a video is, right? Thank you. I'd like you to get up and spend the last, how many minutes do we have left? 3? I got a bit of time. I'd like you to get up and look at somebody who doesn't have a video. I'd like you to go over to this other person, show your video, and explain and help this other person understand and start a conversation about what this video says about you. And you get bonus points if it's a tradition, a craft, something that has to do with intangible cultural heritage. And, you know, Minecraft is all about, so my video, it's all about intangible cultural heritage. Of course, you just need to spin it a little bit. So get up, find somebody who doesn't have a video or somebody who looks interesting to you. Not your neighbor, because you know your neighbor, but somebody else. Go to them, show this video, and try and engage a little bit about, in a conversation about what this says about the other and what we can learn from this tradition. If you don't know how to start that conversation, ICH&museums.eu/toolkit is where you find the tools to do so. Everybody sits down again in 5 minutes, and I give the floor back to Janet. Good luck.